Hey, did you know that the author of Matthew was a moron? Yeah. So this video will be the first video in a series of videos where I discuss the Gospel of Matthew. Because the book of Matthew is full of errors, contradictions, anachronisms, false prophecies, and Christians love to just ignore these problems because I don't know, they're stubborn as hell. I'm going to talk about something that a lot of Christians like to bring up when you're talking to them about their religion, and that is in Matthew, where he discusses Jesus riding into Jerusalem on a donkey. Somehow Christians believe this is proof that Jesus was the Messiah or that he was divine. See, he rode a donkey into Jerusalem just like the prophecy said he would. Except that is not a prophecy about Jesus at all. So in Matthew 21, the author of Matthew starts talking about some prophecy from Zechariah that he believes is about Jesus. However, he just didn't really understand the full context of Zechariah, or he just deliberately ignored the context to make it fit his theological agenda regarding this Jesus guy. So in Matthew 21, it says, "When they had come near Jerusalem and had reached Bethphage at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, 'Go into the village ahead of you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, just say this: the Lord needs them, and he will send them immediately.' This took place to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet. Tell the daughter of Zion, 'Look, your king is coming to you, humble and mounted on a donkey and on a colt, the foal of a donkey.' So the disciples went and did as Jesus had directed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and put their cloaks on them, and he sat on them." What? So this proves that the author of Matthew, whoever he was, because we know that Matthew didn't actually write Matthew, just didn't understand Hebrew literature, specifically Hebrew poetry. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But we also know that he was relying on the Greek Septuagint, because the Greek Septuagint changes the Hebrew text dramatically. And this is something that Luke actually talks about. Luke actually brings up writing on the donkey as well. However, he actually fixes it in his text. Matthew didn't catch his error, and that's because, like I said, he's a moron. So the author of Matthew took this from Zechariah 9:9, the Septuagint version. And so the Septuagint says, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Proclaim aloud, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, the king is coming to thee, just and a savior. He is meek and riding on an ass and a young foal." So since Matthew was using the Septuagint to get this prophecy, he messed up. He doesn't understand synonymous parallelism, and I'll explain that here. The better translation of the Hebrew text for Zechariah 9 says, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you. Triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey." See, this is where Matthew's confusion sets in, because in the Hebrew text, there is no conjunction. There is no and. It just says humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. This is classic synonymous parallelism, and this is found throughout Hebrew literature in the ancient days and in the Bible itself. So what is synonymous parallelism? Synonymous parallelism is when the second line repeats the first line, but in a different way to emphasize or add strength to the message. And here's a classic example: humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. He's not saying humble and riding on a donkey and a colt. Like, come on, Matthew. Here's an example of synonymous parallelism in the Hebrew Bible. This one from Psalm 24:1. "The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it, the world and those who live in it." So it's just re-emphasizing the first sentence. And here's another one from Psalm 114. "When Israel went out from Egypt, the house of Jacob from a people of strange language." Again, it's just re-emphasizing the first sentence. The house of Jacob is Israel, and people of strange language is Egypt. And another one in Isaiah 1:3, "The ox knows its owner and the donkey its master's crib. But Israel does not know. My people do not understand." Israel is God's people. So again, the second sentence is basically re-emphasizing the first sentence in a different way. But let's go back to Zechariah for a minute. What is the context of Zechariah, and why did Matthew mess it up so bad? Let's dive into it. So most scholars agree that there are two parts. Some scholars think three, but definitely two parts to the book of Zechariah. First, Zechariah being chapters 1 through 8, which was most likely written between 520 and 518 BCE, which is the early Persian period. Second, Zechariah, or Deutero-Zechariah, which are chapters 9 through 14, most likely written between 330 and 300 BCE, which is the late Persian Hellenistic period. So first Zechariah was actually post-exilic propaganda and national reconstruction literature. Judah had just returned from Babylonian exile. They were politically crushed. They were economically ruined, militarily powerless, surrounded by hostile empires, and they were trying to rebuild their identity, their land, and their temple. So these people were needing some legitimacy. They needed hope. They needed some type of divine favor in Yahweh. And so the book of Zechariah is an answer to the question, why hasn't Yahweh abandoned us, and what comes next? Second Zechariah, on the other hand, chapters 9 through 14, is a war oracle. It discusses how Yahweh annihilates Israel's enemies. It describes how he marches through Syria, Phoenicia, Philistia. He restores Judah's power, and he installs a Davidic ruler on the throne. And scholars are pretty sure that this was written in the Hellenistic, if not the Seleucid period, definitely post-Alexander the Great period, because it describes Yahweh's march, or I guess his conquest route, which is exactly the same as Alexander the Great. Zechariah talks about how Yahweh marches through Hadrach, Damascus, Hamath, Tyre, Sidon, Ashkelon, Gaza, and Ekron, and that matches Alexander's campaign route literally. The author of 2nd Zechariah is watching Greek imperialism unfold in the Levant in real time. Even if Jesus did actually ride on a donkey into Jerusalem, I'm never gonna concede that he rode on a donkey and a foal. That's just absolutely ridiculous, and it's crazy that this is not a problem for most Christians. So in Zechariah 10, he goes on to say, "He will cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the war horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off, and he shall command peace to the nations. His dominion shall be from sea to sea, and from the river to the ends of the earth." Well, Jesus didn't do any of that. Nah, nada. Not a single thing of that did he do. Nothing. The riding on the donkey was not the point of Zechariah 9. It was to signal or signify that war was about to start. Zechariah 9 starts with a humble king entering Zion, and it goes on to explain how God destroys chariots, war horses, and foreign imperialism. It's a violent liberation. Yahweh stirs up Zion's sons against Greece, turns Judah into his war bow, defeats the oppressor, and then establishes a victorious theocracy. But Jesus didn't do any of that. He wept for Jerusalem, he predicts its destruction, condemns the temple, and allows himself to be executed. He's no warrior, and he was definitely no king. So again, whoever the author of Matthew was just didn't know what he was doing. And I'm going to make a whole bunch of videos to basically prove to you that this guy was a moron. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and good luck out there.